How's everybody doing? And welcome back finally to New York 1-to-1. I'm I Think You Know, and in today's episode we'll be working on Grand Central Terminal and the surrounding area on 42nd Street. And later, there's a live play going into further detail, but that's it for the intro. Let's dive right into it. And the first thing I need to do before talking about this beautiful railroad terminal is to apologize to all of you. It has been entirely too long since my last video. I think I actually recorded the live play to this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's really been a struggle. I've had a lot going on, not only in my personal life, but as many people around the world know, we've been dealing with remarkable heat waves all over the planet. Thanks global warming, thanks oil companies. And that has been no different in New York. We had a really brutal heat wave last week, and it gets so hot in my 7th floor walk-up apartment that I cannot turn off the air conditioner even for whatever, 10, 15, 20 minutes to get this recording in. So hopefully the summer will end soon. We won't have any more ridiculous heat waves, and the next episodes will not be delayed so badly. But I feel like I say that a lot, and maybe one day it will actually improve. It's coming, I hope. What we need to talk about, of course, is Grand Central Terminal. And I say that very specifically. This is me being very pedantic, but I like being pedantic once in a while. And Grand Central is often referred to as Grand Central Station, which is not its technical name because it's not a through station, it is a railroad terminal. All trains end at this location and must reverse and go out upon leaving. As well as the fact that prior to Grand Central Terminal, there was both a Grand Central Depot and a Grand Central Station, which existed before it in the early days of the railroad, with many of those operating with steam trains. The current Grand Central Terminal actually did not open until 1913. And again, this was replacing earlier buildings and was really spurred upon by a 1902 accident with the steam trains in the tunnel getting so smoky that one crashed into the other, tragically killing 15 people. After that, this part of the city underwent massive amounts of renovation. A lot of the train lines leading into Grand Central were originally above ground or at grade along 4th Avenue, what is now Park Avenue in New York. And with the electrification, I think both of those are okay. They were able to close off, cover all of those lines, bury them underground, and allow the real estate to develop around there. Because when the original depots and stations were built in the mid to late 1800s, this was really far uptown. Remember that Manhattan didn't get its grid plan until 1811, and even by 1870, 1880 or so, when a lot of this development was happening, uptown Manhattan was pretty underpopulated still, not really where everybody was. Most of the action was still downtown. But the completion of this terminal really invigorated this entire area. A lot of people will think that the Empire State Building in that area is really like, the most critical part of Midtown. But when the Empire State Building opened, they called it the Empty State Building, because all the action was around Grand Central, because that's where the trains are. To this day, Grand Central is the second busiest train station in the country, with the first being Penn Station just a few blocks away. And right now, it's funny because in the past, a lot of intercity rail left Grand Central. So Grand Central became this hub for people coming into New York from out of town, for GIs leaving and coming back from the war. And nowadays, it isn't. Amtrak actually left Grand Central entirely, I believe in the late 80s or early 90s, and very, very rarely runs anything there. However, what does currently run into Grand Central are 3 main lines on the Metro North, which is the Hudson Line, the Harlem Line, and the New Haven Line. And those trains go into Westchester and points north, and Connecticut and points northeast. However, what is being added right now and should be opening at the very tail end of 2022 after much delay and much cost overruns is what is now being called Grand Central Madison, which in my opinion is a dog crap name. Just continue to call the thing Grand Central Terminal, that's fine. But actually what is being built is a connection from the Long Island Railroad east of the city, which all of those trains currently go to Penn Station, and allowing them to access a new custom-built subterranean area underneath Grand Central. I'm not really crazy about the idea. To me, it's a boondoggle because the LIRR and the Metro North couldn't cooperate and use the same tracks they already had. Grand Central already has the most platforms or most tracks of any station in the world. I'll put an asterisk there. You can correct me below if I'm a little bit off on that, but it's something along those lines. So I really wish that multiple billions of dollars weren't spent building another train terminal below it so that wealthy commuters from Long Island that refuse to have any additional housing built in their neighborhoods can use, because that $10 billion or whatever could have went a hell of a lot further building mass transit for New York City residents instead. But, you know, I think long term it will be a good thing. I kind of just wish they would have kept digging and built a nice loop down through Lower Manhattan and into Brooklyn to connect with the Atlantic. That would have been really cool. And then you could have really talked about maybe long-term New York getting a really, you know, RER type system. But enough about the train terminal itself. Let's talk about all the areas around it. So because this terminal became so popular and became such a hub for the city, it's been a magnet for some of the largest and most famous buildings in New York. You'll see to the right here, the Chrysler Building, one of the most iconic pieces of architecture in the country. And on the other side of the station is One Vanderbilt, one of the newest, tallest buildings in the city. It was really cool when it was still being constructed because you can see Grand Central exposed next to it. What I'm building here now is what is currently the Grand Hyatt, a terribly ugly hotel created by a terribly ugly human being in Donald Trump, which is supposedly going to be torn down soon. Can't wait. Burn to the ground. Don't burn to the ground. It might catch the terminal on fire. Just knock it down. But really surrounding all this is a ton of office buildings, a ton of space, and just so many iconic buildings. The Helmsley building you're seeing there on the right, and the formerly Pan Am, now MetLife building directly behind Grand Central. But that's all I really have to say right now. I think you should stick around. In just a few seconds, we're going to get into a live play where I'll show you how all the mass transit is working around here, and how this area looks after I've finished and built out even more of it. So stick around, that is coming up right about now. All right, and we're back in the live play, and I'm recording this first, which is a habit I've been getting into recently, but the one thing that I have to say is it has been very refreshing to put together this build. Feel like there's been several episodes in a row of building out road networks, putting in smaller neighborhoods, lots of small buildings, and putting together this build where it's landmarks, it's big custom assets on a kind of a different grid compared to what I've been working on. Was really a lot of fun, and these assets are awesome. I mean, some of these assets are pretty old. The Chrysler Building, the MetLife Building are pretty old. But they look really nice. Like, everything looks really good. I think the color settings in particular look really nice in this area. Speaking of those colors, I did play around a little bit with Grand Central. This is a default asset, and you know, honestly, I'm not even still sure I have the size in this right. I feel like I might need to expand this a little further to like have the roads sit on the building itself, but you know, this is a pretty difficult thing to build, and I'm happy with the way that it came out. As I used to say a lot in the past, you know, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Another thing you'll see is the continued use of new road networks. So you've seen the, you know, standard one lane in each direction with parking. However, one of the roads that has been the ugliest, and it's been called out before, and I've agreed with it, is this stock road. So I wanted to move over to a big urban roads road, but the problem is that it's either like a ton of lanes or it's a really narrow road. So what I've done is I used node controller here and I expanded these to be the exact same width that these roads are in New York in real life, which is about 30 meters or so. And I think it looks okay. It obviously looks a little bit wide, so when you have a car going down, there's like way more room than there would be on a New York City street, but the overall, the textures, the lines, the traffic lights are way, way better. So I'm happy with the way these came out, and I think I will redo some more parts of the city with, 34th Street, 14th Street, the other major crosstown roads with this same kind of treatment. So let me know what you think about those, unless there's something else maybe you can recommend. Now, this area is not hustling and bustling too much just yet, but if we back out here of the overview, you'll see that the orange bar for our industry and office demand has finally come down because so much of the buildings in here, the ones that aren't custom or aren't PO'd, are all office assets. So even these, these midtown office buildings that have been released recently, which, I mean, come on, these look really good. They're definitely one of my favorite new assets, and I really liked to get, like I said, this build was a dream, and getting to play around and drop some of those things in was really important. While we're backed out of the view though, let's take a look at the mass transit options we have in this neighborhood. So we built this out in one of the earliest videos, but it's really being used now. So we have a ton of use. I think the train just got picked up. On the 4-5 going downtown, and on both the 6 and the 7. The shuttle, like you see, it does get used once in a while, but not really that much. I am curious if once I build Times Square, which I promise it's happening soon, if that will fix that problem. But really happy that this is getting a ton of use. And I think once I continue to build out this area and maybe put in some housing, put in Bryant Park here, that this area should get pretty hustle and bustle. I feel like I would need the terminal to turn like the timing of the game on to like simulate like a work day for there to be people like actually coming in and out of these buildings at a rush hour. I don't even know if that's a thing I can do. I never really play around the simulation to that extent. But I'm going to keep expanding this area, I think, off camera, and I really would like to see if I can get this area to connect up through here, and then do a big Times Square episode, and then this entire area will kind of be filled in. Yes, I am aware that I've now shown this area so many times, Billionaires Row and the northern parts of Midtown, and I promise there will be a video coming eventually on that. Things have been really hectic here. I don't even know when I'm going to get this video out, even though I'm recording this right now. Which is really unfortunate, because I'd love to bring you guys more, but, there's a lot of things going on in my personal life that, long term will be better for this series and allow me to do more of this and do it more comfortably, but gotta get there first. So with that, I will leave you with a beautiful cinematic. Thank you all so much for sticking around. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, comment down below. It really helps the channel out. Thank you so much. Bye.